Meow meow, Onyx The Fortuitous here. You might know me as the weird Satanist guy, or the weird Arby's guy, but I'm here to tell you about my new Kickstarter for my feature film, Onyx The Fortuitous and the Talisman of Souls. Go to onyxthemovie.com to check out the film and consider backing it today. It's an 80s throwback masterpiece, like Fright Night or Gremlins. Without further ado, here's Jonjo Lyons with a review of Pieces.
What's that like to live delicious? Chaos reigns.
Please don't scream.
Nah, Sid, don't you blame the movies. Movies don't create psychos. Movies make psychos more creative.
What's going on? My name is Jonjo Lyons, and today I'm here to present to you my review of the 1982 classic, Pieces. Written by Roberto Loyola and Dick Randall, and directed by J.P. Simon, Pieces stars all of these wonderful people. The co-eds of a Boston college campus are targeted by a mysterious killer who is creating a human jigsaw from their body parts. My first experience of Pieces was the same as a lot of other films that I like, catching the tennis girl murder in a death scene compilation on YouTube. After its discovery, the film shot straight to the top of my watch list, but for some reason it's taken me a super long time to sit down and actually give it a go. Widely known to be one of the more scummy slasher movies of the 80s with the insanely bloody kills and the aesthetic of a low-budget porn film, Pieces is the fun little movie that I need right now, especially after taking a deep dive into the Necromantic trilogy last week, which you can watch there. Just from the trailer alone, I can tell that this film's gonna tick all the boxes for me, and really, I just want to know how the f you sneak up on someone with a chainsaw. And to help with the review, I'm gonna be joined today by Onyx The Fortuitous. How's it going, bud? This is Pieces. The film begins in Boston, 1942, where we meet the 10-year-old Timmy as he chills out singing Humpty Dumpty and doing a puzzle. His mother enters, discovering the horrible truth that her son is assembling an image of a naked lady.
Where did this filth come from?
His mum kicks off, slapping up Tim and trashing his stuff while calling him dirty-minded and comparing him unfavourably to his father. She smashes a picture of Timmy's father and then sends him to go get a bag so she can burn his things. Moments later, Timmy returns with an axe, which, to be fair, Timmy, wasn't really what she asked for, was it? Which he brings down on his mother's head, soaking the room in blood and killing her. Cut to outside as someone rings the doorbell with no response. Cut inside as the phone rings and Timmy saws his mother into pieces. He goes back to his puzzle as the sound of sirens can be heard approaching. Timmy then hides in the closet as the police break in and discover the horrific scene. Sorry, can we just take a quick moment to acknowledge the absolute stash game that cops got? God damn, that's sensational. They find the mother's severed head and then Timmy, who cries about a big man and asks where his mother is. The police ask about his father, but the neighbour says that he's away in Europe with the Air Force. She then advises she'll take Timmy to an aunt who lives nearby. Cut to the title card and then to 40 years later. Cut to the killer as he opens a box containing the mother's bloody clothing and her picture crossed out. Cut to a woman skateboarding and then two men removing a mirror from their truck. The woman crashes into the mirror as we cut to the killer starting to assemble his porny puzzle. Cut to the skateboarding woman now studying in the park when she's disturbed by a chainsaw-wielding gardener.
Hey, you gonna be long? If so, I'll move somewhere else.
Just a few minutes, miss.
Okay.
Just move, mate. What are you up to? I don't like people standing behind me at the best of times, let alone wielding a chainsaw. She goes back to her studies when she's attacked and decapitated by the killer.
Ah!
Cut to the university as two cops, Bracken and Holden, meet with the dean in relation to the murder in the park. Cut to a scene where some kids smoke weed and deliver some beautiful performances.
The most beautiful thing in the world is smoking pot and f***ing on a waterbed at the same time.
They see Professor Brown leaving his office and one of them asks where her pectorals are while the other teens laugh.
My friends all laugh at me. They say mine are funny.
I assure you, you have nothing to worry about.
Cut to Brown entering the dean's office. Brown and the secretary Grace discuss the murder and the current theory that the killer was one of the staff. She also mentions that the authorities are yet to find the head. Brown is then called into the room with the dean and the cops. The dean tells Brown to give the cops the grand tour while also mentioning that the murdered woman was a student in his class and that his speciality is anatomy. The dean then asks that this investigation be kept quiet for the sake of the university, stating that the uni version of events will declare the murder an accident. Cut to Brown and the cops entering his classroom. They discuss the possibility of the killer being one of the students, ending with Bracken pausing the tour to go and read the coroner's report. Cut to the groundskeeper Willard trimming bushes with a chainsaw and looking just about as sinister as humanly possible. He's gonna f that chainsaw, isn't he? He's joined by the dean, who asks Willard when he'll be finished and then buggers off. Willard then spies on a couple making out. Cut to the Pawnee puzzle being put together and then to the library where we meet Kendall. He's been passed a note containing an offer of swimming pool sex from the woman across the table. Kendall accepts this offer and arranges to meet the woman there. He attempts to throw the note in the trash but misses, leaving the killer to find and read it. The girl bumps into some friends and they mock Professor Brown, giving us yet another example of the amazing dialogue, delivery and dubbing.
Not nice. I think he's a sugar plum.
Down, girl. You know what they say about sugar.
Bye.
Yeah, take
What do they say
care.
about sugar?
Cut to the pool as the girl arrives, strips down to her bikini, exposes her breasts and dives in, all without noticing the killer sneaking in behind her.
Get out of the pool! Get out of the pool!
The killer then draws for the net and captures the girl, dragging her to the edge of the pool and pulling her out. The killer then goes and grabs his chainsaw from the shadows. The killer approaches the girl, who stares in utter befuddlement at the figure, expressing zero emotion in the face of certain death. Cut to Glasses delivering a note to Kendall, and the exchange here is just wonderful.
Don't tell me I'm the bearer of bad news. I could kill myself.
No, it's alright.
Good, I'm too young to die.
What the f is going on with that ADR? The way the voice actor has to try and fit an entire line in as Glasses leaves frame is just so perfect. It's the little details like that that make this film a classic, in my opinion. Cut to the killer carrying a bloody bag and entering a room where we can see the severed head of the park girl. Cut to Willard as he enters the pool room and turns on the light, revealing Kendall, who runs away. Willard then finds the blood-soaked chainsaw and clocks the pile that used to be the pool girl. He attempts to head after Kendall when he's suddenly jumped by the police and completely hulks out, throwing these motherfuckers around like rag dolls before eventually having a gun pulled on him. Brown enters shortly after and is asked whether or not he thinks this was done with a chainsaw. Brown inspects the pile, confirming a chainsaw was indeed the murder weapon and that her torso is missing. Brown also touches the chainsaw, potentially destroying evidence, and I love how much they're trying to convince us that he's the killer. And just look at this. Contrary to what we see later on in the scene, I would like to think that they have a different stretcher for each part. The cops leave and discuss what the killer is doing with the missing body parts. Bracken then suggests they get an undercover officer to pose as a new teacher. Cut to Glasses and Kendall being told they must attend the dean's office to be questioned, and then to the cops with the dean. The cops advise they'll be placing 2 undercover officers on campus, to which the dean begrudgingly agrees. Cut to the boys chatting in the hall and then to them being questioned about the note. The cops think it was sent by the killer to stop him from going to the pool and ask why he went anyway. Kendall says it felt weird and something was fishy. The boys are then sent away. Cut to an aerobics class as the heavily breathing killer approaches the door. One of the women go to use the bathroom and are followed by the killer. The woman walks around the maze of corridors when a door suddenly opens and we're treated to this.
Oh, what a relief. You just scared the shit out of me. Sorry, come on.
Cut to Kendall being introduced to the psychologist Dr. Jennings, and then to Bracken recruiting a female officer, Mary, for the undercover job. Kendall says hi to her and is given some advice about the case before leaving. Mary scolds him for revealing her identity, but Bracken says he can trust Kendall. He's then approached by Sylvia Costa, a reporter for the Boston Globe. He evades her questions, dismissing the murders as simply rumours, and then we cut to the tennis court. Here we watch Mary play tennis with a student for what seems like 1,000 years as all the other students and faculty watch. We see Sylvia turn up, and then the dean congratulates Mary on her victory, invites her for tea and asks where the other undercover officer is. She says it's just her and the dean commends her for her bravery. He then asks about Willard, with Mary informing him that he had to be released due to insufficient evidence. They're then joined by Sylvia, who requests time to speak with the dean, but he declines, advising he's far too busy. Cut to the killer with this porn puzzle and then back to the dance studio as a lone woman throws shapes, and outside the door the killer watches. The woman stops the music, gets dressed and leaves, with the killer then emerging from a secret door in the mirror wall. The woman runs through the halls with the killer in pursuit, eventually reaching the elevator where the killer already is somehow. He gets in the lift with her, hilariously concealing the chainsaw behind his back. Inside, everything seems fine until the killer stops the lift and the woman looks down to see he's carrying a giant chainsaw.
What are you doing? No, please, no!
Cut to just outside where Kendall happens to be working on his motorcycle. He hears the woman's screams and runs to help along with 2 security guards. They break in and discover the corpse of the elevator woman missing her arms. Cut to the police arriving at the scene where Kendall tells them that the woman is still alive. Still alive! But then Dr. Jennings says she hasn't got a chance, which makes more sense. Brown arrives with Bracken throwing suspicion his way and then chats with Kendall and his partner before we get this wonderful shot. It's basically all the suspects lined up next to each other and I'm just waiting for the music to start. Could it be Professor Brown, the anatomy teacher who always seems to be at the crime scene and has a mustache? Could it be Willard, the groundskeeper who f***s his chainsaw? Could it be Kendall, the ladies' man with a beautiful head of hair? Could it be Grace, the secretary who's played by a woman called Hilda Fox? And the dean who has a British accent? Who will be revealed as the chainsaw-wielding maniac? Find out after this break. Cut to Kendall in bed with another random woman as he has a go at her for being too loud and looks out the window to see Mary walking through the darkness. The woman tries to tempt Kendall back to bed, but he gets dressed and goes out there. Cut to Mary looking around as we see the killer's feet, the chainsaw, and shots of Kendall running back and forth like it's a Benny Hill sketch. And that is when this happens. Mary kicks this gentleman in the which knocks him out as we hear the sound of a motor running. Luckily, it's only Kendall on his bike. He asks what happened and the attacker gets up, revealing him to be...
Oh, hey, it's my Kung Fu professor. What's the story, Chow?
His Kung Fu professor. Kung Fu. The Kung Fu professor then blames Kung Fu professor. The Kung Fu professor then blames his behavior on bad chop suey. And we just move on from that scene like it never happened. They ride off together as we see Sylvia emerge from the shadows doing a bit of investigating herself. She enters a building and we see the shadow of the killer creeping behind her. Inside, Sylvia looks around when suddenly the door slams shut and the killer bursts in brandishing a butcher knife. They struggle with the killer throwing Sylvia onto a waterbed where he repeatedly stabs her. Sylvia tries to get up and run, but the killer flips her on her front and stabs her through the back of the head, the blade passing through and exiting her mouth. Cut to Mary's as Kendall tries his luck and gets rejected. Cut to the killer entering his fridge room where he hangs up the naked corpse of Sylvia and has another crack at his puzzle. Cut to the tennis court with the student that Mary played earlier. Loud music begins to play over the speakers, disturbing her practice, so in frustration, she gets in the shower. The killer enters the changing rooms and begins to stalk the girl just as Kendall and Mary arrive. The killer then attacks Tennis Girl, chasing her topless through the changing rooms. She tries to hide in the bathroom, but the killer saws through the door. The killer then enters and slices the girl in half, covering the walls in blood.
Oh God, I can't look. So much blood. But I love it.
Cut to Willard exiting the changing rooms as the film still tries to convince us that everybody is the killer. Kendall and Mary ask him to help turn the music off and Mary thinks she hears a scream. They turn off the music as Kendall discovers Tennis Girl's body. Mary has a look and at the end of her rope with this whole chainsaw massacre gets angry.
While we were out here fumbling with that music, the lousy bastard was in there killing her! Bastard! Bastard! Bastard!
Cut to Bracken as he's informed of the murder. He then tells his partner he'll be sending Kendall to help him look through files. The partner kicks off saying he can't involve a suspect, but Bracken assures him the kid is clean. Cut to the killer as he tries to put shoes on the new feet with no success. Cut to Mary as she runs into Professor Brown and asks him to walk with her. She tries to get more information about the Dean, but Brown tells her to mind her own, and then Kendall jump scares her.
It's only me.
He tells her the Dean to be at his place from 7 and then heads to help the partner go through the files. Cut to Mary surprising the Dean to ask him a few questions. He invites her inside and makes her coffee, dropping something extra in for good measure. She starts drinking the coffee and then asks about Professor Brown. The Dean immediately offers her more coffee, which she accepts. He then drops more drugs in a drink as she talks about the police searching the whole campus. Cut to the files office where the men discover the Dean changed his name and he is Timmy from the opening scene. The Dean is the chainsaw maniac. Cut back to the Dean's house. Mary starts to feel funny, unable to move, and it's then the Dean reveals his evil intentions. Bracken is handed the message from his partner and rushes off. Cut to the Dean's as he prepares to saw off Mary's feet. Outside, the cavalry arrive, but when they get in, the Dean is nowhere to be found. The police search the apartment as Kendall tries to get Mary to walk. The Dean then jumps out from behind the curtain and attacks Kendall, who is forced to drop Mary on her face. They struggle for a bit and it looks like Kendall is about to get it when Bracken saves the day. The police then start to search the residence, with partner and Kendall finding the now completed puzzle. Partner leans on the bookcase, revealing another completed puzzle.
I really...
Cut to a little while later as everyone is leaving. Kendall and partner head out, but as Kendall picks up his jacket, this happens. Cut off dick, check. The end. Pieces is amazing. I don't think I've ever seen a movie that encapsulates the best worst aspects of the slasher genre and exploitation movies more than Pieces. Everything is just so perfectly terrible. Terrible acting, worse dubbing, gratuitous nudity, technical errors as far as the eye can see. Though the film is a Spanish-American production, it oozes Italian Giallo style in everything from its score to the incredibly over-the-top violence and red paint blood. The film seems to take these aspects, combine them with the more traditional slasher qualities of American horror and turn everything up to 11, creating a film so ridiculous that it demands to be seen and shared. Honestly, I like it better than the original Friday the 13th. The story is as bare bones and simple as it gets, with so little expositional dialogue from the killer regarding his motives, it almost feels like they left it out entirely. Because they kinda did. The killer's motivation, according to IMDb, all stems from the girl that crashed into the mirror. In an interview with actress Roxana Nieto, she explains that her character skates through the mirror but survives with apparently no visible injuries. The scene is witnessed by the Dean, who gets the idea to create a perfect woman using pieces from other women. He then stalks and kills the skateboarder Palmer, making her the first victim at the college. This scenario was not explained in the movie. And what about that ending? I've read online that the original ending confirmed the reanimation of the Jigsaw woman to be a dream, but I much prefer the way it ends here. Apparently there were discussions of a sequel with a screenplay entitled Pieces 2 being trademarked in the late 80s, but that never came to pass. If I was in charge of the sequel, I would have 100% made the villain the Jigsaw woman. It would take place on the same night and feature Jigsaw possessed by the soul of the Dean's mother, chainsaw in hand, killing men on a revenge rampage towards the Dean, who would still be alive, having survived the bullet to the head. And you better believe the ending would have included a chainsaw fight between the two killers, ending in the institution exploding. Mwah! So, Onyx, did you love the movie as much as I did?
I love the movie Pieces, mainly because it's got, like, pieces in it, body parts. Yeah, I love a good movie where there's a bloody chainsaw and a bunch of police standing around that bloody chainsaw going, I wonder what could have done this. I wonder who could, I wonder what they used to chop up this body. Couldn't have been this big bloody chainsaw, could it? Yeah, I think it was. I also like Pieces because it has a cool murder scene that takes place in a pool, which kind of triggers one of my deepest fears, which is not dying in a pool, but rather being in a pool at all. I hate being in pools because when I was in 5th grade, I had to take off my shirt at the 5th grade pool party, and everybody laughed because they said I had pancake nipples. So yeah, just, really upset me, made me want to take a chainsaw to all my friends. Huh? Who's got pancake nipples now, Billy? Who's got pancake nipples now? I also really connect to Pieces because the main character is kind of like shamed for his sexuality and for his curiosities exploring at a young age. But when he was making that nudie puzzle, and one time my mom found a Tyra Banks swimsuit illustrated under my bed as a little kid, and she was like, "What's this?" And I was like, "Nothing." And she was like, "Why is it under your bed?" And I was like, "I don't know. I think a troll put it there." Yeah, I think that troll from Cat's Eye snuck into my room and put that Sports Illustrated under my bed, trying to me look like a shameful bad boy. But the truth is, I would never look at that magazine. I have no interest in looking at Tyra Banks' bosoms. I have no interest in looking at that pink polka dot bikini. Get it out of here. And so my mom threw it away, and I cried for a month. I also like Pieces because it's got a really sick misdirect. Like we're supposed to think it's that big beefy bad boy that's got the chainsaw, that with the beard, we're supposed to be like, that's the guy, that's the killer, but it's like obviously not gonna be him, it's gonna be somebody else. And that's kind of like in my life, like I always see someone that I think is going to be the person that makes fun of me and bully me, but then it's actually the person you least expect, like my biological father. Oh, wouldn't expect you to make me feel like shit. But you did it again, Carl. Just like in Pieces. So all in all, I give Pieces 5 chainsaws out of 5. So, because of all the pieces and sexual shame and misdirects and pool stuff.
Well said, sir. Well said. So that was our review for Pieces. Watch it immediately. But before you do that, head over to onyxthemovie.com to support the Kickstarter and help Onyx make his very own feature film. The project is over halfway to being funded, so head over to the site now and give what you can to help this movie become a reality. In the meantime, thank you all for watching. Onyx, thank you very much for joining me today. My name's Jonjo Lyons, and I'm gonna go watch Will that chainsaw some more.